Hello, everyone. I hope you are having an amazing day. This is Roxana Popet with Step on Your Fears, and I'm a transformational speaker and an NLP trainer. And I could not be happier than to be with you now for episode number 2 of the Stories About Fear podcast. Why you deserve a fear free life. Well, this topic of fear is highly debated, and most of the times we only see it as lack of freedom, lack of having complete decision over what you do next in your life, in your professional life, and mostly in every area of your life. It could also be lack of courage, and we all know that courage is the one that takes you further when you decide that there is no going back. I want to talk to you today a bit about the positive side of fear. And when I say that you deserve a fear free life, I mean that you deserve a life full of contentment, excitement, freedom of speech, and freedom of thought, and maybe a lot of satisfaction as well. Now, I see fear as a friend, fear as a guide as well, because as our mind is mainly negative, it is by default set to only keep you safe. Unfortunately or fortunately, our mind does not care at all about our goals, aspirations, or any other changes that you may implement in your lifestyle. It only wants you to be safe. And when you understand how to deal with this aspect, you get your mind under your control again, because I want you to look at your mind that equals fear. Yes, I want to say this again because it may be the first time that you have listened to someone say this. Your mind equals fear. I want you to see it as a very concerned mother. And how do you deal with a concerned mother? You tell her that it's okay. I understand and I respect your concern. I know you want only what's best for me, and I can assure you that I got this. I'm in control. Now, your mom, your mother, is going to be far more relaxed when it comes to you making changes, when it comes to you going. You may have the privilege of her only looking at what you do from far away as a simple observer. Now, you cannot detach too much from your mind, can you? And it's not the point that you do this. However, I want you to understand how fear works, how your mind works, in order to know how to control it. Because when you have the knowledge, when you understand exactly what is the pattern of fear and how fear happens, then you are all set for success. And how fear is creeping in your mind, how your mind puts its negative default plan into action, is to happen without any warning at all. It may be less than a fraction of a second that you get this strong worry. You get this thought that, oh my goodness, I will not be able to do what I'm about to do because. And then thousands and thousands of other negative thoughts, limiting beliefs, and worries and scenarios, because our mind starts to build a lot of potential conflicts and potential negative situations and experiences that may get you to withdraw from what you are trying to do, as it is very convincing. And what you can do in this instance, when you already fear that you are not going to move ahead with what you planned, is to have your mind be grateful. And gratefulness happens in the very second that fear happens as well. As courage, gratefulness is pretty much on the same page as fear is lack of courage and lack of gratefulness. And I want you to focus in that very moment on what is the good side of what you want to do next. You feel the fear. I want you to understand that there is no way that you can conquer your fears at first. It takes practice, like you practice with your body muscles, like you practice a sport. You need practice and practice in order to make it perfect, in order to make sure that you get this towards excellence. Because yes, it is a skill to keep your fears under your control, and I'm going to teach you how to do this. The first step is to make sure that you focus on something that you are grateful for. You feel the fear, then the very second, in the next instant, I want you to think of something that you really like about the situation you are in, something that you appreciate, something that your mind can see as very beneficial for you, that can help you move through that dark patch with which is fear in this situation. And as I said, fear is also a really good guide. You know what to do next when you discover that you have a certain fear. And what a blessing this is. At least now you know which way to go. And I mean that whenever you struggle with emotional and mental pain, you get into a very conflicting area inside your mind, inside your body, as you feel completely confused. I want you to know that you cannot detect a fear from the very first beginning. If we could do this, we would be completely out of the woods, and we would be with more than 50% of the situation already solved. What happens is that the struggle, the pain happens mostly before you realize it is fear. You get a lot of images in your mind, you get blocked, you get stuck, you are mostly in a foggy situation, and that is the place where I want you to avoid to be with all cost. My goal for you, my sole purpose, is to help you and to show you how to live a fear-free life. Now, of course, I cannot convince you that you deserve a fear free life, and by all means, you are the only one that can decide to leave your fears behind. However, what I can do is to make sure that you are on the opposite side of this very debated feeling, which is an antithesis at the end of the day, right? Because you also have a negative part, the lack, as I was talking about a few minutes ago, but then you also have the guide, the friend, that once you know about this friend, then you are very, very happy to be knowing which is the thing that you need to do next. Now, with fear, we can do three things. Only three for now. This is what my research has come up with so far. My research in terms of the people I worked with over the years as I began to practice my fear free coaching almost 3 years ago. And before doing this, I have analyzed myself, my feelings, my thoughts very deeply. And these three solutions to fear are the following. Number one, you can step on your fears. Stepping on your fears, as you know that this is the name of my company, means that you do the thing that you are afraid of. And it is easier said than done. I know. I have only recently been able to do this, to put in practice completely what I preach, because dealing with fear may be fearful for me as well. And one of the things that I am doing right now is to be live on this podcast, live on YouTube as well as I am recording the podcast. And this makes me actually become the best version of myself as a professional, as a person, as a speaker, as a trainer, because my mind is very much obliged. I am actually getting my mind to be so present. I am fully present as I would be in front of you, in front of a stage where there is no remake, where there is no pause because I have misspelled, I have mispronounced a word, especially that I am not a native English speaker, I am Romanian. And in order for me to do this, to step on my fears, I had to conquer a lot of limiting beliefs and to focus solely on giving you all of the value, all of the information that I am capable of, so that you can truly conquer your fears, step on your fears, and take your life to another level. So, the number one thing that you can do with your fears is to step on them. The second thing that you can do with your fears is to see them from a different perspective. Now, this is easy. This is as easy as me moving my chair from one side to another, and the people that are on video live on YouTube can see me do this. Most of the times, as easy as this may seem, you need someone to stir you. You need someone to guide you, to push you, to help you slide from one side to another. Because as my cup of coffee is right here in front of me, and yes, I drink coffee, I drink my cappuccino, even if it's very late on a Saturday night here in Romania. You need someone to tell you that you can move this cup from side A to side B, where it's a completely different perspective. Seeing fear from a different perspective is very powerful. You get to learn a lot of lessons, and you sometimes need to move only 1 millimeter, and then you get to see things so different. This 1 millimeter can cause major changes in the way that you see these particular things or these particular fears. Seeing fear from a different perspective is something that I recommend you do in order to train your mind to completely step on your fears, to do the most major thing, which is to actually do the thing that you are afraid of. At the end of the day, and you will hear me talk about this more in the following episodes, you get to have a lot of regret. You get to have a low self esteem. You get to have your mind be very stuck and blocked unless you get to do the thing that you are afraid of. As let's face it, fear is a guide. Fear is something that is telling you that you need to change. You need to have a different way of dealing with certain things in your life in order to grow. And the third thing that you can do with your fears is to question them. This is even easier than the second step, which is to learn the lessons from the fears that you have, as questioning means bringing your rational mind to dive very deep inside of these fears that most of the times are irrational. Once you begin to ask yourself, okay, why am I feeling the way that I feel? Or why do I fear this? Then your mind will say, well, I don't have any explanation for this. Let's erase this fear as it doesn't make any sense, because your mind does provide you with a lot of very strong arguments when this fear is very deeply rooted in your core, in your system, in who you are as a person. Although it does not define you, fear does not define you. And one of my favorite quotes is to question everything, especially your own thoughts, because even if you have your thoughts in your mind, it doesn't mean that they're yours, and by all means, they do not define you. So I want you to maybe take a pen and a piece of paper, have a notebook, have a journal, because, well, you know that I am an NLP trainer and I am training you on how to keep your fears under your control. And I want you to think of a certain fear that you have, or a limiting belief, or even a negative pattern that you don't like to have anymore in your lifestyle, because fear is very deeply rooted in most, if not all, most of our negative emotions. And I want you to think of which is the best way to deal with your fear. Is it number one, step on your fear, do the thing that you are afraid of? Number two, see fear from a different perspective and start learning lessons. And step number three is to question your fears. I want you to let me know of the result. You can reach me at roxanapopet.com, or also contact me on my website, roxanapopet.com. You can find the details in the description of the podcast episode, because I would very much love it to see that you put in practice this great advice that is going to change your life. Now, I already said that my goal, my sole purpose for you is to get you moving from this dark place of blockage, of uncertainty, of low self esteem, of not seeing things clear, to an amazing paradise of mindset, which is called freedom of being who you decide to be, freedom of having your mind under your control, to know that any change, any chance that you take is by far the best one that you could ever take. And I want you to understand that you become the best version of yourself as long as you decide to move forward. This very small step of you deciding that you need to have your mind under your control is the key, is the solution that you get all of this wonderful information, all of these extraordinary advice under your own system. As unfortunately, if you are not 100% sure that you want to move to a new level of thinking, unfortunately, I cannot help you. No one can help you unless you help yourself first. And there is this wonderful example, and I have to tell you this. I know you may know it, but as we are doing stories about fear, it's always amazing that the flight attendants tell you to make sure that you put your own oxygen mask first before doing anything else, before helping even your child, before helping anyone around you. Because, my friends, if you are not helping yourselves, if you are not the ones that put your mental health first and your emotional well being and security on the first place, no one will. And I want to tell you about some very great examples that I have had last year in working with two amazing people that have had the decision to completely move to a new level of thinking. And I get a bit emotional when talking about this because they are so far advanced now. They have been so eager to get the finishing touches. They were very close to having the life of their dreams. They only needed a boost. And this boost, fortunately, was me coaching them, me giving them the final last pushes, this fuel at the end. You know, they say that sometimes the last step is the hardest. And coaching, I also do coaching as much as possible because there are things that you don't see. Even if you are the best professional in the world at what you do, sometimes the second person can see the things that you can't see, even though you have your hands all over the situation. And this person, that is a Romanian living in Germany, was seeing their life partner at as a very difficult to reach God on a pedestal. And I only helped her with some advice, with getting to understand that the fear of them going on the pedestal next to their partner is very irrational in this sense, as you cannot look from below to someone that you want to spend your life with. This person was afraid that if they get too cocky, if they get too close to being the ideal partner that they would see their partner be, then maybe they would lose them forever. However, as soon as my client understood that they need to be at least on the same level if not even think higher of themselves, if this is what they decide to do, then they cannot be fully happy. If you put yourself lower, if you make yourself seem smaller than you are, then how can you live a life full of happiness and contentment when you always feel below your means? This was an example of ambition, of very strong and amazing will from my client to fully decide before contacting me, because they said that, it took a while, it took 2 weeks until they got my details and they got in touch with me, as the fear was too big. They had to make a decision once and for all that they are not going to live a life of lack anymore. The second client that I want to tell you about is another amazing person that was aspiring a very strong political career. And of course, they had the fear of success, fear of not being good enough. And this was mainly some interior work we need to do with changing the internal image that this person had about themselves, as once you get to understand that your purpose, your mission needs to be higher than yourself. It's more than your own need that you need to take care of, especially when you deal with politics or when you have your own business. You need to make sure that you are a role model, that you inspire people. And what better way to start doing this than to be a role model for yourself, to start inspiring yourself and to be the best version? Was very much they have thrived, and it does get me emotional knowing that I only contributed to the final finishing touches for them. And as you are listening to me now, when you need my guidance, when you need my help, I encourage you to be 100% convinced by yourself, to yourself, with yourself, that you want to start over fresh, that you want to leave your fears behind. As if you are not 100% convinced, I cannot help you too much, unfortunately. We could do breakthrough sessions, as I have also been through over the years. However, I want to tell you a short story about a time that is a bit sad to me. It has had a very strong impact on myself because I did not know that I had a certain fear when I began a very strong NLP breakthrough. It was 3 years ago, before deciding that I want to be a speaker. And I was in a place where I didn't want to 100% go back to the original problem that was holding me back. And this has caused a lot of uncertainty and a lot of unease, not only in myself, but in the person that was coaching me as well. And of course, they were extremely professional, and I learned so much from them back then that they have very gently began to explain to me that I am not fully convinced that I want to leave fear behind. And I wasn't convinced even after they told me this. Can you believe it? This is how our mind works. And what I did was to continue with the program, with the breakthrough. Just a small parenthesis, what a breakthrough is, it is several hours of intense coaching and NLP processes and procedures for when you have a deeper problem, a deeper emotional problem you need to solve. And as I continue with this process, me still being scared to go through all of this, I went to a place that was a bit too painful for me to handle. And I had a miniature disappointment as I thought that I could finish with this sooner than to go through a lot of unease and uncertainty because as I told you a few minutes ago, once you discover you have a certain fear, then this is the best thing. You can consider yourself blessed. You have found the solution because now you know which is the cause of the problem you had. The fear is the thing that you need to do next, either three of the ways that I was telling you about, but I didn't know I had the fear. And I needed maybe a bit more time to myself, a bit more decision making to do with myself before I could. Go through this breakthrough successfully. It was successful, but still, I remember I still had some things missing even then. I didn't feel this complete satisfaction that I would always have after a coaching session as I do now when I'm 100% convinced that I want to leave my fear behind. And since then, it was a very good lesson to make sure that I am always 100% ready to move on from a certain fear. I am very happy that you have been with me today as well. I want to thank you and I invite you to visit my website, roxanapopet.com, and download the first step to a free mind. The 7-step guide to permanently conquer your fears is a great gift to download from me to you so that you can start seeing your fears from a different perspective, that you start questioning them, and also that you start stepping on your fears, as this is my goal to you. I want to take you on this journey of mind that is maybe not 100% ready yet to leave all your fears behind. However, I know that you are curious and I know that you have at least a small amount of courage because otherwise you wouldn't be listening to me right now. And I want to take you slowly but surely towards a free life. Life is so beautiful. Life is very easy to deal with. And when you have a fear free life, when you are completely free, when your mindset is free, you will understand that you are the only one that gives meaning to everything that happens around you. You can decide whether you are an observer or not, and you will have the best life that you can possibly create for yourself. Until next time, have a wonderful week ahead. Step on your fears because it is about time, right? Have a great week ahead.